On Football Manager, have you ever celebrated an opposition injury? Listeners, tell us in the comments as well. Tell us in the comments.
You're an absolute psychopath. So your PA messages you, and he or she says, "Hey, Tony, just to let you know, the cup final's coming up. I booked in your suit measurement meeting for this week. As a side note, do you want to go sort out this other thing?" Right? So you don't actually have to do anything with it there, but it's just a little flavour text before it asks you about the other thing.
We're no further forward to deciding a save for FM25 yet. No further forward. If you've got any suggestions for us, leave a comment.
Now, I think it used to be easier, and I feel like now, I don't know how other people feel, but I certainly feel like I'm worse, like, with the amount of experience I have playing
I've
this
won the
game.
Champions League in many
I should be better.
years.
Yeah, right?
You're the guy that said no attributes.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the FM Show. I am your host Tony Jameson, joined as always by RDF Tactics, aka Aaron Falloon, and the one and only Maggio. Fellas, how are we? Are we well? I'm going to come to you first of all, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm very well. Very well. It's still raining, which is a bit annoying.
You've had it worse than everyone else has.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't even get to talk about the house. Yeah, the kitchen getting flooded because of the back door just could not hold the rain back anymore. But yeah, it's weird. But it's been raining a lot, and the kids absolutely love it. So they're always outside jumping on the guy. And this is the most I've seen them use the trampoline. This is the most I've seen the kids use the trampoline, and yeah, pretty much enjoying real life football as well. Obviously, the last time we spoke, Arsenal got a decent result away from home to Manchester City, but we're now through to the Carabao Cup next round as well, beating Bolton 5-1. So seeing the youngsters play and flourish. So yeah, I got a smile on my face. I can't lie. I'm walking around a bit proud.
Yeah, we've got the old Aaron back. I like that. Mr. Sunshine's back, and Mr. Maggio. How are we, Si? Well, how's the leg, by the way? Are you recovering, or are you still probably done in?
No. I mean, like, I'm just holding the memory of the goal. I didn't explain it last week because we had Ben and Jack on, or 2 weeks ago because we had Ben and Jack on. And I thought, I can't just spend 10 minutes talking about my goal. But it was an amazing goal. Like, outside the box, I turned, I was like pushing the offside line. I turned, I span the other way from the defender, turned and hit it. Stretched my leg. It curled round the keeper into the bottom left corner. It was beautiful goal. And I've been regretting it since. So,
my God.
You've got to. Oh, Aaron wasn't here, of course. Yeah, I've torn my quad, Aaron. So
yeah, that's what the maddest thing is.
Limping around
because I got an injury to my knee. Like, that's not an excuse. Why I'm not a professional footballer, by the way. But yeah,
it's my excuse.
So the reason why I don't really play football anymore, I'll say I don't know. I was like 18 or 19, and it's the same thing. I was playing up front. I scored a banger the first time. So then the second time, someone played a through ball, and I like similar things, spun, got through, and then I was like, I've already scored a banger. Now I've got the goal. Let me try and go around the goalkeeper or something. And yeah, that little bit of ego, that cockiness cost me because I tried to go around him. He's patted the ball. I've tried to spin around and the knee just went plop, popped out. And that was, ever since then, I've regretted scoring the screamer beforehand because if I didn't, I would have just finished it like a normal striker would. But
I did my ACL when I was about... It's an interesting start to the show at this point, isn't it? Let's talk about our injuries. So, yeah, I did my ACL, and we were playing five-a-side. I must have, blocked it or something, or gone over on it beforehand to, loosen it up a little bit. But then I went to block a shot, and this dude was he clearly hit it perfect. And I had my foot ready to block it, but realised he hit it too well, so I pulled my foot out the way. Because if this takes it, then I'm going to do myself an injury. So I pulled my leg out the way and did myself an injury, and I just heard it go, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
So yeah, I was proper Rodri'd.
Yeah,
and I've not played football. I've not played football since, and that's not necessarily because of that, but yeah, that was the thing. I was just like, can't be doing football anymore. So yeah,
Talking about the Rodri, I mean, in the WhatsApp group, I remember Size talking about maybe we have a topic of the week. It's not coming today, but you mentioned injuries and the Rodri thing. On Football Manager, have you ever celebrated an opposition injury? Listeners, tell us in the comments as well. Tell us in the comments.
You're an absolute psychopath.
It's like, I went on Twitter the next day and seeing Rodri obviously injured and the Arsenal fans celebrating. I'm like, obviously I've had an injury as well, and you're like, the pain, man, that is not even. Nah, I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy, man.
Sorry,
I think I have.
I thought you meant in game, but I think Sai now definitely means in real life.
In game as well, yeah. Because
Well,
sometimes the more I bleeds into Football Manager as well, the more roles.
There are players I would wish an injury on in real life.
Oh, it's got to be a Southampton player.
They're best not named, but yeah.
Okay.
But like at the same time, yeah, in game, I think it was when I was doing my World Cup and I came up against France. And I was like, wait, they don't have Mbappe. Where's Mbappe? Mbappe's injured. And I was like, yes, get him out of here. Get him out of here. We don't need to worry about him. I mean, they've got enough quick, wingers anyway. So,
but I've noticed in FM though that if the star player gets injured, it doesn't matter who they bring on, they're just as good as the star player, even though they've never played football before.
I was just about to say that. Just like that Real Madrid Mbappe situation. Like, I would rather play Real Madrid with Mbappe, because I've got this feeling if they play this 15, 16-year-old player, he's going to somehow just go screamer against me. And you're all there like with that hope, like the game kicks off, you got that hope like, wow, it could be the day, and then nope, 5 minutes in, it's just like 2-0 up.
yeah, it's not your day at all, is it? You're like, bring one-legged Mbappe back on, please. Let's get
that's what happens when you celebrate injuries. The FM god's real.
Oh, I tell you what, I did celebrate on FM this week. A perfect hat trick from a centre back.
Oh. Was it headed? No, a perfect hat trick.
Perfect hat trick.
How did you manage that?
Let me talk you through it, okay? Two of the goals came from set plays. Technically 3, really, but one's a corner. No, let me talk you through it, right? So one's a corner, right? One's a corner. Whipped into the near post. The flick on. My centre-back's at the back post, taps in. Brilliant, right? Lovely. Keeper's like running, flailing. He's got no clue what's going on. Centre-back taps in. Very, very happy. Second one, corner. I'm not classing this as a set play, by the way. Corner, because it's the second phase of the corner. Yeah. So corner comes in, it's headed away, it drops down, and then it's sort of like played to him, nodded down to him on about maybe penalty spot area-ish, runs onto it on the half volley into the top corner. I'm like, where's he got that from? Okay. And then the third goal is a free kick. So it's a free kick played out wide, where the wall are going, we weren't watching this fella. So the ball's played out wide, whips in, centre half, unmarked, header, back post. Perfect hat trick. I was like, I'm really happy about that. Really happy. Like, strikers can do it all day, but to see a centre half do it, superb.
Yeah, that's class. Wowzers. Top goal scorer?
In that match, yes. And to be fair, probably just about top goal scorer in the league as well. I've got an issue at the minute. I can't find. I'm in a weird point. 19 seasons in. Sounds really bizarre to say. I'm in a weird point where I can't find really good players now. Like, for some reason, I've got some money to spend.
Yeah.
But when you're just looking at all these players, and maybe I've just got a bit of like player blindness from being in the database that long, but I keep looking at all these players and I'm like, they're fine, but I don't think they're much better than what I've got, and what I've got has issues. But I'm like, no one's jumping out at me. Although I have just signed an Argentinian lad who's 19. And he's dubbed the new Gonzalo Higuain. So I've got high hopes for him, right? High hopes for him. And I nearly paired him, and I might well do it actually, pair him with a Czech striker who's touted as the new Jan Kola. So what a perfect strike force that is.
Wow.
Big Jan Kola, Gonzalo Higuain. I'll have a bit of that in Greece, thank you very much.
That is mental. I'm in a similar position actually with Brentford. I'm in the online save. And with Brentford, so 2 of us, I think there's 5 of us. 2 of us qualified for Europe, me and Zims Muller. And we both had this thing where, like, you're in Europe, so you're celebrating, you're like, yes, and you're just imagining what your team's going to look like next season. And it got to the summer, once you go through the transfers, we're like, we're struggling to find people. Like, it's just like, you find someone, too expensive, and then you find someone else who's like, he's not really better than Norgard and all the people that's already in my team. And it's just like, yeah, you spend, and then we just got stressed. We're like, people, please just press continue, man. Let's just get through this, because it's actually stress. Yeah, it starts hurting your head. and you go back to the player search like the 10th time, the 11th time, try and remove one attribute, and it's just like just nothing's happening. Yeah, well, no, it's a horrible place to be in.
Have you found yourself in that situation as well, Si?
It's no, I don't think so. I'm sure.
No, okay, right, fair enough. Well, moving on then.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think back. Like, I mean, what do you do in that situation?
Because the issue I've got is I don't search by attributes, which of course, loyal listeners who've listened to the last couple of weeks will know I don't search by attributes and have commented along those lines. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I do need to start doing attribute scouting. Even like what I found really, really difficult is when you click on the bit on the player's profile and it says to the staff, find player similar to.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I'll just find a player similar to this guy. And it turns out that my player is similar to the greatest players that have ever walked the face of the earth. And I'm like, he's not similar to a £250 million left back. Like, don't be down.
It's I'm just trying to think. So like, obviously with Athletic, so I'm doing Athletic Club Bilbao right now. Athletic Club Bilbao. Okay, the answer is yes if you ask me about Athletic Club Bilbao, but that's because I can only sign Basque players. Like the better players out there exist. But I'm very much have a narrow pool. It's not like the good players aren't there. I just need to find the Basque ones. So right now I'm like, are there any good left backs out there? No. My left back's getting on. He's 31, 32. Like, how am I going to replace my left back? And I've just basically signed up any promising-looking young left back who I'm allowed to sign, just so I have them at the club. None of them are going to be ready, at least for 3 or 4 seasons. So I've just got to hope a little bit. My other tactic is I've been trying to move my right backs because I had 2 world-class right backs, which is really annoying because I can't play them both. So I've been training one as a left back. And then the other one decides that he's signed a free transfer to Liverpool when I wasn't paying attention. I had my back turned, so now I'm screwed on that front as well. So, but I was thinking more generally, what happens is it tends to be I have too many options. I'm like, I want to sign all these players. I want to sign all these wonder kids, and I can't. I'm just going to be a hoarder of good footballers. Like if I see good footballer, I want to buy good footballer, and I'm like, well. I already have 5 right backs who are world class. Do I need the 6th best right back in the world? And like, my problem is I would go, well, yeah, because he looks like he could be really, really good. And then I end up with these massive squads. It's not, I think more recently the game has forced me to deal with that issue a bit more. Like players get more annoyed with playing time. They get more annoyed with, the registration rules are a little bit tighter. So you can't I think you used to be able to get away with it a lot more. Like I think back FM15 or something, you could definitely hoard players into your team and not worry too much about them getting upset or registration issues or whatever.
Yeah, registration issues are the killer because like for where we are at the minute, so we'd qualify. We'd finished third. I think I'd said in last week's episode we finished 3rd in the league, so we had like the Champions League qualifier spot. But that's like before the transfer window's even open. So you've got to register your Champions League squad. Then the transfer window opens, and we've already lost a whole lot of players and brought a whole lot of players in. Probably too many, granted. So my registration's already happened. I've already got players pissed off because they're not in the European squad. And I'm like, you weren't even here? Like, and then I'm having to so I've essentially got like a European squad and a league squad. Now I've got players who are going, well, actually, I need to be playing more regularly anyway. And I'm still trying to bed my squad in. So I've already managed to sell 3 players who I signed in the summer for nothing and have sold them off for decent money. So that's quite smart. TJ, well played. Do more of that, actually. That's happened. But I've now got this sort of little cul-de-sac of anger in the training ground, which I don't really need too much. And that's one thing we were saying about stuff that we wanted in future FMs. Give me some sort of indication as to what I need for registration for Europe, please. Because don't tell me at the start of the season you have no homegrown players. Tell me that before the start of the season so I can go and buy some homegrown players. And I know, granted, I should know some of that myself, but still, at least give me some sort of indication that we're on the right path.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're only hoping and whatever, but from this 4 screenshots that FM showed us, and you've got the inbox screen, you've got the task on the left-hand side, it'll probably be a good place or whatever, or even it's just a place there that tells you.
Well, if they're going to like WhatsApp messages, aren't they, rather than emails? So
what Football Manager does, but I don't think it's there. But there could be a better way of showing you. Is that when you are signing players, it does sort of tell you at the left there that you've got this amount of players that have registered for Europe or whatever it is. But again, it's very written small, but it does like a green tick or whatever, like just something more visible, letting you know, like if you sign this player, then you might not have enough players to register in the Champions League or something like that. Just a warning. Or again, this is what your assistant manager should be there for. He's an assistant, so it should be really a message in your inbox as well.
Another little sort of like area, even on the squad, the scout report or something, just going like, he would help you fill your European quota or something like, and that would really help site, surely.
Yeah, I like there are certainly things that the assistant could be doing, or like the game could be doing, just to notify you about things coming up. I mean, I guess. So my problem is, I think the game does tell you about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's just not.
But you just lose it in the volume of things. I mean, it's exactly the problem I had this right back to. I lost to Liverpool. I have so many messages about contracts expiring because Athletic Club Bilbao's squad is humongous because we've got 3 B teams and an under-19s team. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why we have so many teams, but we do. So like, I have these players who are just turning up left, right, and centre. I'm like, who are you? What club have you been? We got about 20 affiliate teams as well. So I'm like, who are you? Where have you been the last few years? You're a 22-year-old, quite good, but not good enough for me. Like, you'd probably do well in the second tier or a lower La Liga position. I'm like, where have you been? Like, you've been here the whole time, really? I'm 5 years in and I've never seen you before. And like, my problem is I have so many of them, and like, I get the big long list of like, these contracts need sorting. And I missed the right back because I was like, I didn't check it. And I assumed he was still in contract just because he was only 19 or 18 or whatever. And I was like, nah, he'll have a contract still. Well, and I could have done with the assistant going, hey, that guy, the world-class one, get him signed up before Liverpool. Or it'd be like, Liverpool is sniffing around him, get in there before he gets snipped up.
Well, what's interesting, Si, is that it looks like, from the few screenshots we've seen, that all of the UI is being cleaned up and less cluttered, but that's not. That would really help, wouldn't it? Like, if you could see more information rather than just having all this information in your face. But some people seem to think that that's maybe not really going to be as advantageous as you've actually made it sound in this. Because
I think it
how many of those little inbox things do you actually need, really?
I mean, I don't think it's good. Have we seen the screenshot where it's like, it's not an inbox, it's like text messages? It's
like a portal, isn't it?
It's like on the right-hand side.
And it's about four or five boxes, isn't it? And there's like sort of upcoming fixture or whatever, and then because they haven't got the calendar on the top. I think that's what we were looking at, wasn't it? And it looks nice and clean. I think it looks nice and clean, but I know that some people are obviously, that some people decide that they want it different. But yeah, I mean, when we hear that, sometimes you just get too much bombardment of info, and yeah, you do miss things. I don't also pay as much attention as maybe I need to. And I know we were saying in the last episode that you get loads of information and little tips and hints about like, hey, maybe you press this button, maybe you press that button, maybe you do this. But there should also be a button that says, Tony, read this here. It's important.
That's there is. It stops you, doesn't it? But it doesn't stop you on everything. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Right. That's true. I have also started to get a couple of wins at international level.
Oh, that's good, because that'll be in next year's game. You can carry that over, and you can carry your save over.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
next year.
I'm looking forward to once again not qualifying for the World Cup, but this time on SI's terms, not mine.
I know exactly what will happen. You're going to qualify for the World Cup the day before the game comes out. And you'll have to work, and you'll be like, well, now I've got normally what you could have done is you could have just transferred your save over. If it was any other part of the tournament, you'd be like, hey, we're in the FA Cup final. Let's play that in FM25. But you're going to go into FM25 with your World Cup, and it's going to be like, hey, you've been sacked on the eve of the World Cup. It's going to be
as well, isn't it?
Fabio Capello all over again.
Oh my day.
I've just seen a startling look into the future, and I think Sai's called it, hasn't he?
Are you going to have to run a special stream or do a late night one or something? It depends if they do like a shadow drop like they normally do. They're like, hey, it's out now.
Well, I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to just stream FM24, really, like, and just have it tagged as FM25, and everyone go, this looks like last year's game, and I'll be like, yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Everyone will be furious, Tony. You will
of course
so many people. Unless the game does just look like FM24, in which case we've all been,
That would be funny, won't it? That would be hilarious.
Could you imagine if they just trolled us all? We're taking all this stuff out and then just sitting there going, actually, no, we've kept it all in, just decided. I don't know, Si, you got me thinking now, though, man. FM25, like by this point in the cycle, I've already got my idea locked down, and I'll be honest with you both, I don't really know. I've not got a 100% lockdown idea. Like, I don't know where you two are at with it. Aaron, have you got an idea? Are you committed?
So usually, I think I'm going to do. I don't know, because this is a new game, so what I'll usually do is get the new game, and then I'll start scouting all these new wonder kids or whatever, just going around the game, getting familiar with some players and whatnot, but that's only because you know the game already, so there's no... I don't need to go and look at player search, because player search is still the same as it was last year and that sort of thing, but now it's like, you have to relearn the game, so you're going to have to go back and go into every little single thing, so I do think this time it's going to be actually better to start with a save, because I tend to not start with a save. I think I'm going to have to just go straight into a save, and then that's how a lot of these things, I'm going to get familiar with the game, but it's going to be boring. But I'm thinking about Arsenal. Now I might just go to Arsenal women first, and then try and like win a trophy or whatever. Then I can now finally manage the first team squad, but I don't think you can do it that way. I don't know how, obviously I don't know how it works yet. But yeah, I'm thinking about Arsenal and Arsenal women. That's the only two teams that I can even think about managing right now at the moment. And then, it's gonna be about learning a new game, to be fair. That's my FM25 save idea. Learn the game first. I think especially as a content creator as well, right? I've got to as well, sort of thing.
Well, this was what I was about to say. Like, we've kind of got it slightly different, haven't we, Si? Because, like, as Aaron says, everyone's got to learn the game at the same time now. Like, no one now is an expert, right? As much as we, as much as we can, we've played this game for a long, long time. Like, as Aaron says, we load up the new version. We know how to play it, right? It's a bit of like almost autopilot. We've all got to learn how to play FM25 at the same time, so it's all like we're all back on the same level. So, is there an argument for Si going back to what we say to anyone who picks up the game and says, "Who shall I start with?" Is the argument pick the team you support and manage a team that you know the players, the systems, like, or at least a team you're familiar with, like, so I'm not saying you have to manage Portsmouth. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, it doesn't really help me. I'm like, with these distinctly average players in a very tough championship.
Yeah. If you could just do that, that'd be great, Si. Like, what you need to do is learn the game with no money in the championship. Perfect, right?
Yeah. I think you taking on Birmingham would be the one to do with their 10-20 million pound players down in League One.
No, but it's not though. It's not though, because you're going to get sacked by Christmas when you're not top of the league. That's the problem as well.
Yeah.
Actually,
to be honest, I would probably go Arsenal. Like, it used to be my go-to if I was just starting a game. I wanted to learn. I used to go Arsenal. I mean, I'm gonna say I'm like a closet Arsenal fan. This is a guilty admission, but only on the part because my stepdad is an Arsenal fan, and I've been to see him. Like,
to be fair though, there was I remember going to Portsmouth years back, and it was always like this appreciation. I mean, we had Thierry Henry, but like every time he took a corner, like that whole section of Pompey fans was just stand up and applaud him. Yeah, so I remember going to a game and the whole stadium was just singing "Play up, Pompey, Pompey," and the Arsenal fans just joining in because it was just. Well,
actually, the only time I really
so you can you're winning the game, so you can join in.
Yeah, I think it was when Pompey were in the Premier League. That was the only time I didn't really have a soft spot for Arsenal. Actually, maybe prior to the Portsmouth in the Premier League as well. Like, see, this is very interesting with Wenger. I was reading something about this yesterday. Maybe we talk about like manager mentalities and stuff. And actually, I mean, how manager personalities and things, which is something that we sort of see like a little bit more in the console version than the PC version. I think we might talk about that next week. But like, something really interesting is about the way in which Ferguson and Wenger were like, how people felt about them, like at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, and how it changed. Like, people were very, very positive about Ferguson at the end of the 90s and early 2000s, and people really hated Wenger because Wenger brought in all these foreign players. Like, Man United was all like this core of English or British, well, Roy Keane Irish, but, you know, British players and Irish players, you know, home players, let's say, home nation players. And Wenger had, like, he's just bringing these players from France, lots of French players, like no real English core to his team. Like the English players were already there. They were good. Like,
they're already there, yeah.
Adams.
It wasn't him bringing them in.
Okay, Sol Campbell came in, you know, Ray Parlour, Seaman, but those were the ones who were already there and then on their way out. And the ones he replaced them with were foreign. So there was like this very much like anti-Wenger thing. And I think it sort of changed across time. And I think one of those reasons was because with the Emirates Stadium, the Arsenal didn't have any money to spend. And they started to rely more and more on the youth academy that they have. So you see Wilshere, Ramsey, Theo Walcott's not Arsenal academy, but like he was very young when they brought him through. So bringing through these younger Arsenal players actually changed people's perceptions of Arsene Wenger. So he went from like being a very, very negatively, and I actually think, like I was reading this yesterday and I was thinking back to my own thinking about Wenger. I hated him at first. I used to think he moaned. He used to annoy me. And then like by the mid 2000s, I'd actually like grown an appreciation for him. Well, I mean, there were other things. Like the first season in the Premier League for Portsmouth was Arsenal's invincible season. And Portsmouth should have won that game, but Robert Pires took a massive dive, controversial.
That was a home game, innit? We was at home, right? At Highbury, yeah. That game was sticky.
It was a draw. But I just remember it, the Pires dive, and that was like, that could relegate us like in our first season. But like, I think. So just thinking back, I've always had that soft spot for Arsenal. I think I would go. So yeah, I would go with Arsenal. I think Arsenal, if a team to be familiar with. This is what we say to new players: always choose a team you have some kind of familiarity with. Is like not just a familiar. You know what kind of players you have. You can spend a little bit of money, so you can have a little bit of play in the transfer market. You sort of know what style of play that you want to play with them. Go for something like, if it's a top level team, probably go attacking football. Although I think the game is a lot less forgiving now. If you go Arsenal and you don't, kick on early on, I don't know how forgiving it's going to be. Whereas it used to be, okay, you could probably hold on for quite a while, even if you had a bad first season.
I think it was FM23. I didn't even last the beta with Arsenal. I was
I was the same with Barcelona, yeah. I was the same with Barcelona, yeah.
23. I think it happened to everyone on 23. I did it with Juventus on 23, and I was like, Juventus should be the best team.
I liked the control. I liked it, to be honest.
It was the supporter influence, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was one thing I hated that FM fixed. That lot from FM23. I hated that. I just felt it was like So I managed Barcelona. Obviously, I get it. Like, not everyone's a football manager, player like that, so they're not going to be expected to get the sort of results. But I just remember being Barcelona, and it was the second season, and obviously they wanted to win the Champions League, and then they wanted us to win the league, but we were second, but still in the Champions League. And then because we got, they just sacked us. They sacked us for not winning the league, despite us being in the Champions League. But I don't know, something just felt about it that they really wanted the league. We didn't get the league, and they just let go of us, which is sort of what could happen likely to happen in real life, sort of thing.
It's a little bit too realistic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I felt the pressure, but obviously, I get that it can ruin someone's save, obviously, a little bit. But I liked it though. I really liked it. Like my stream. Obviously, me being the first time being sacked as well, I just really liked it. I just really liked that pressure as well. And
there's a
worst thing, we brought back
to
Messi as well. We brought back Messi, and that was another thing.
We've argued before about this, haven't we? Saying like, that the SI can't make the game as realistic as we'd all like it to be, because you get situations like that, Aaron, where you're in the Champions League final, but you're sacked for finishing second. Like, that could happen in real life, and that does happen in real life. Like, we've seen these sorts of things before, like managers even getting to the final of the Champions League, then getting sacked because they've not won it. Like
the Chelsea fella, he won the Champions League, and then they just got a new manager in anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That was crazy.
But like, to your casual player, if that happens to them, they're going to hate it. They're going to kick off about it. Go, wow, this is nonsense. Like, I've got to this sort of level, and I'm out of my ear. Like Arsenal, I think is a great shout, by the way, for a good. Like, I'm going to use the word entry level. But I think it's a good see what the game can do. A lot of good players to play, presumably got a bit of money to spend as well.
Yeah.
Pressure, though, to win the league, so you might potentially run the risk of getting sacked. You might. You should theoretically be able to play most formations with that squad, to be honest, and have a good run at stuff. Premier League licensing, get to experience that. Champions League, get to experience that. I'm going to go for another one, though. If you want something that's maybe not Arsenal, maybe Villa for another interesting Premier League save to start. Good players. You're not at the top, but you're certainly not.
You are in Champions League, though.
You're in Champions League. You've got a good squad. You've probably got a bit of money, which means you've probably got some players, some spots to fill. So again, maybe it's that little step down. So Arsenal's like sort of your, if we call Arsenal easy mode, for want of a phrase. Villa maybe intermediate. What would be the step down again in the Premier League?
I'm gonna go for a shout. Who's gonna say, Si?
Ipswich.
Oh. See, no, I think there's another step in between.
I think there is as well.
Bournemouth.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Bournemouth.
I thought there were 3 steps. Is there a middle step?
Normally there isn't. There's top,
Brighton.
middle, and then there's bottom. But because he went Villa, I was thinking, there's still like a little step there. And I think Bournemouth, where you're almost too good to get relegated, but you're not expected to get into Europe, so it's just sort of a free season, basically.
I think you got a few like that, haven't you?
That could be the perfect save, like being a Bournemouth. Where
Nice little free hit, yeah.
Yeah, like your team should be good enough not to get relegated. You're not expected to win anything, and that way you could just learn the game, just learn the process.
Yeah, you're not going to get
as you go along.
sacked unless you fall in the relegation zone. Like, I think a West Ham will be good. That Brighton, you'd be fine probably.
Everton,
Everton, yeah. Maybe not in real life.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I mean, Everton. The thing is, you might get money at Everton.
Well, you've got a stadium coming, so you might not get money.
Yeah, but there's new owners. Are they not putting money into the club?
I mean, look at Everton fans. I don't know. Do they know this?
And then when's the football manager data lock as well? I'm guessing that would have happened by now.
They normally something like that they might tweak, but it depends.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah.
Okay.
I think normally, they tweak it in an early patch. Particularly things like there's always a manager sacked the day before it comes out. Every time. Yeah. Miles is like, I can't imagine Miles swearing, but it's just
we've not mentioned Man U. But do you know what I mean? Like,
he wants to go there.
but think about this, like, where does that fall? Does that fall in your Villa save almost? Of like, you've got a bit of money
it depends,
to spend.
Because football manager still sometimes, if their rep, I'm guaranteed their rep is still going to be quite high. Mm-hmm. So it might actually not even be, because their expectations might be high, but you don't have those star players.
But you've also got a lot of players you'll need to try and sell to generate money. And how do you shift some of those high earners? That's a bit of a challenge right there.
It is. I'm staying clear of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, stay clear of that. So we've got Arsenal, we've got Villa, we've got Bournemouth maybe, or West Ham.
And then we've got...
and then you got your... you've basically got the teams that were promoted. Like, Ipswich.
Ipswich, Southampton, and the other one.
Leicester.
That's the one.
So are you going to do Premier League?
Ipswich is the most fun out of them three, isn't it?
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Ipswich is the most interesting.
I would have said Southampton, but I just realised he's Pompey.
You got Leicester. You've got I'm not going to Southampton. I did Southampton this year, to be fair. You go in Leicester. You've got an aging Jamie Vardy, a FM legend in Patson Daka, who's never. Or did he leave? He might have left.
Was he on?
I know he might still be there, but you've got some interesting. You got some interesting players at Leicester. They got some good youngsters, but like there's also a lot of like players that just sort of got left behind there. A lot of the money was withdrawn, and I think like Leicester could be an interesting one to try out. I don't know if they are capable of staying up. I remember looking at them. Did I play them? What did I play them for? But they struggled. I played them last year. I don't even remember why I did this save now. But I did a season with them. Their centre backs are really slow. I don't know if they've got anyone new.
Yeah, they got in.
But last season they had really slow centre backs. Like they're all older.
So they got in like a football manager. If many football managers know about him, Celeb Okoli, and he's pretty.
Oh, they got Okoli, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
Okoli's
yeah.
actually good, isn't he? So, because before
I think it's
they
their
had,
midfield. Their midfield lets them down. I think. I obviously don't want to give out no names or put anyone under the bus, but yeah, I think it's their midfield that.
it's
They
been
got a couple of
depleted,
defenders,
hasn't it?
Ricardo Pereira, he could do something. Luke Thomas.
Pereira's getting older though. That's the problem. But the trouble is like James Justin looked quite good, but he hit a few injuries. Luke Thomas looked quite good, but he's never really hit his stride. He's still quite young though, Luke Thomas, I think. Yeah, Wout Faye is really slow. And then
Victor
like for footman, because I think they've got like attributes of 8 or something in pace and acceleration, which is like I don't mind my defenders being a little bit slower, but when they're getting below 10. And you're in the Premier League, and you're like,
nah, you're getting left for dust, aren't you?
Unless you're going to sit a really low defensive block, and it's not the optimal foot manager strategy, is it? So I think they were really tough to play with. I don't remember why I did a save with them.
I don't mind my slow defenders, but I'm always then looking at it. All depends on how high their positioning and anticipation is. If that's like, if we're talking like 16, 17s, then I'm like, you know what, they can be my Pepe. But then if that's but obviously at Leicester they're not going to be that high anyway, so it is a risk. If they've got to have some, if they don't have the pace, they have to make up for it, and if they can't be in the right positions, then you're just definitely a gunner.
Okay. I mean, are you definitely going Premier League with the new license? Do you think that's the way to go?
Come on, man, you've got to, man. The only thing that I might be upset about is they might not have the goal. When the guy when it scores, the animation.
Oh, you tweeted this out the other day, didn't you?
Man, if that's not an FM, I'll be heartbroken, man. That is so cool. But obviously, the only reason why I think it's not going to be in there is because obviously, when a team gets promoted, then what animation? Unless there's a general animation for teams that are not in the league. But nah, man, that animation is beautiful. But yeah, everyone's got to go to the Premier League, man. Everyone that's listening. Everyone that's listening. Oh yeah.
Come on. I can't.
See, so this is my dilemma. Right. So I've been doing Athletic Club Bilbao. Now, one, it's quite a fun challenge save. A good medium length save. 2, if I go into FM25 and start a new Athletic Club Bilbao save, I've got a direct comparison to what I've been doing in FM24.
And also the same players that you can buy from FM24 are the same players in FM25. Yeah. So you're essentially repeating the save. So you need to do something new. Like, I could be tempted, right? I could be tempted, right? Okay, you're saying there about doing teams that you know. Like, I could, and probably will, and probably shouldn't, go back and do Sunderland again, right? As part of the early season save, because why not? It's what I know. It's what I'm known for. There's some good young players in there. We all like Chris Riggs going to be incredible. Job's going to be in there.
Yeah.
So that should be fun to play with. But I want something different again. I can't just go straight into I don't just want to go and do the familiar side. I don't want to do what I've done before.
That's a good position that we're in, though. I just feel that no matter what teamwork we're going to pick, it's just going to be different because it's FM25. It's a complete different game. So no matter what we do, it's going to be different. And it should be different anyway. I just got that feeling. I don't know.
So my other thing is, I'm almost tempted, and there's a little bit of content creation in here, right? But I think I'm to have 2 saves. One for Twitch. Now, this is ambitious and probably stupid, right? Okay. One for Twitch, and that could be a journeyman, I think. And then one for YouTube. And I don't know which way around they go. Maybe the journeyman is one, and then like the short-term thing is the other. Maybe the Premier League team or whatever. Because I would quite like to do a journeyman. My worry about doing a journeyman and starting at the bottom, or non-league to Champions League, or whatever you want to call it, that isn't copyrighted by other YouTubers. The bottom level. So like I'll start at non-league, Vanarama or whatever. Probably do England, right? Because you get the most levels in England, so I think it's always the most. I think most people do England for that reason. You start at the bottom and work your way up. For those who don't know, you can move clubs, you can join other teams, and the plan is to get to the top. Also, sometimes people do it where they stay at the same club and try to get them to the top. I tried to do it with Hamilton Waterlooville a few years ago. I don't think I can do that this time, because I did it with, I've basically done very similar the last 2 years, Hamilton Waterlooville and Heist, and I got sacked both times. So that's what I say to those two teams. I think then if I start with those bottom teams, though, it can be very easy to, I think, manipulate the game at that level. If that makes sense, if you're in the National League and you have some familiarity with the game, if you find a good tactic, or you just sign the right players, you find a nice loan deal for a world class player who's just young from a Championship level team or Premier League level team. I think it's getting harder and harder to do this in the game, but it's still possible, and you just end up flying up the divisions, and you never really develop the skills to learn the game, which is a problem. And I think I need to develop the skills to learn the game this year.
That's a fair comment. Because I think there is definitely moments in those saves where I think we've all said that getting into the Football League isn't that difficult, and then the bounce from League 2 to League 1 to Championship, you can kind of do it back to back, maybe like 3 seasons at a push, like 4 seasons at a push to do three seasons, like 3 divisions, and it's like not that tricky. You're right though, it's a good way to learn the game now, going back down to the bottom. But again, I'm with you. If you find something that works, then it's like, are you just going to do the same thing and just like steamroll your way through? Do you lose a sense of realism already?
Yeah. That's just difficult, innit? People just, it's game the game, innit? Game the game. That's why I never understood that argument from some people. And when they say Football Manager's too easy, Football Manager's like, they could be streaming and telling you Football Manager's too easy while you're looking at their team, and it's like, yeah, it's because you bought him and you bought him and you bought him. And it's just like the whole wonder why. Like, you've only bought him because he's got 17 pace, and obviously you know what pace he's going to do in the match engine. And it's that sort of thing, innit? But at the same time, it is hard to not do that. Like, I was just mentioning that doing a network save. Like, I'm Brentford, but I'm looking for players that... Because obviously you're in a network save. There's obviously 4 different managers that are buying all these other great players as well. So you're just like at a disadvantage if you don't. But you're doing that thing, right? Like, you're Brentford, but you're not looking at Brentford quality. You're not looking someone that's one up than Yanel. You're looking at someone that's... You're trying to go from Yanel to elite. Like, literally, it's just in one season and one jump. And then that's when, like, Football Manager becomes too easy, because you're now essentially a Brentford to a Liverpool sort of thing in the game. But, yeah, it's difficult, though. Like, how do you not do that? Like, when you're going through your loan list and you can see that player right there in your face, you've got to tempt yourself not to do it. And you're like, but he's there. He's within the rules of the game. You're not exactly cheating. It is difficult. It is difficult.
Well, how about we think about this then, right? Because this was something that we spoke about on stream the other day. And we tend to think about FM saves as challenges. Like, I know, like, at the minute I'm doing Build a Nation. Like, Sai, you've done Build a Nation. You're doing Bilbao. Aaron, you've done loads of different challenges, like win the Champions League with Everton in like half a season when they're not even in it, like those sorts of things. Like what? Like, let's think about the scenarios that you've got in game now and going into FM25. Like, without thinking of the specific teams, you've mentioned already side journeyperson career. That says a lot to me. That speaks very much on my level of starting employed and just see where I end up. Yeah. I could quite like that. I can tell a story as I'm going through. I'm doing it as a stream save. That's going to be fun. But I often wonder with a journey person that it has no actual end point. And I don't know whether it needs an end point or not, but...
Winning the Champions League has got to be your end point, I think. Or the World Cup. One of the two.
Well, you can't win the World Cup. Kind of, that's the problem.
Winning the Champions League has got to be your end point.
I think that's part of my reason why I struggle to do those saves, It's when I start thinking about the end point, I'm like, all of that for the champion. Like, it doesn't feel like the game rewards you for all of that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're having a Waterlooville, who are there, and you've done all that journey just to see the same trophy lift, and it's the same trophy lift that you've seen with your Johnston Paint trophy lift. It's the same.
Well, it's not now though, because you have the license, don't you? So now it's better.
It's not, but it is. It's like, it's not like
So
Yeah,
what you want
they've changed
then?
the board behind us, but that's and
Right,
the camera
Aaron,
angle.
so
It now zooms in differently.
So in the new Unity engine, what you want is after you've done the trophy lift, you want to hit
cash in my
continue,
bank, some
and
real
you
life
want to
money.
see once you've hit continue the actual street footage of the parties that are happening in Havant and
just
Waterlooville,
something.
seeing people out going, "That's what I've done. That's what I've done." Like, I want to see the open top bus tour.
I swear to you, like people
and
might
feel
even
it.
laugh, right? People might even laugh, but even just going back to your inbox and then just like confetti, just like, so when it's your birthday and you're an ex and you go to your profile and it's just got the but something like that, like so like you say to your endpoint, right? You need something like a checkpoint, just something there, like that's the endpoint. You've done that for that confetti, just that little burst of confetti, just something. You need something, otherwise it's the endpoint on your terms, right? Like you need. I think for me,
that
there needs
gold-
to be an official,
gold
like you're playing a
plaque.
game, right? Like you're playing Tomb Raider. There's an endpoint, like you get to the final boss and there's a thing like the credit screen, and that's the end. Like that's the end. You can't go back to it. But with doing your own save like that, park to the top, then it's just like you've got to end it on your own terms, and it never feels official. Like it for me anyway. Like once with that Everton thing, like we went around the Europe and that, and you're like, oh, now should we go to South America? Or is that gonna ruin the game? Because there was no that official endpoints, and now you're just left to yourself. Yeah, if it's something that was there, like you've done, like a challenge, like you've done the challenge, you just cannot physically go any further than that. Then yeah, I think I would be more intrigued in playing that game, because then it feels like I'm doing like levels, like I'm going to the boss, and then the boss is the Champions League final, and that's it. I've done the game. The game's done. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Maybe some
What about
confetti.
if you get when you have like Manager of the Year awards ceremonies and stuff? What if they were like? What if the awards ceremonies were in the game? And
Right,
you're like
okay.
you're sat there and you wait. I don't know if you ever used to play like Theme Hospital or Theme Park. I said,
You've been playing those games on Steam, ain't you?
Well, like, 2
What
Point
have you
Hospital.
two been up to this week?
If you ever played 2 Point Hospital, like, so at the end of the year, you had Hospital of the Year awards, basically, right? And there would be like an awards ceremony, and like it would be like, it would make this little sound. You get a badge that appeared on the screen, and it would say who won it. It would say who won, and you'd be like, oh, I won 3 awards this year.
How am I the sensible one?
I've never played that game.
Anyone who doesn't like, you got to go look it up. End of year awards, Theme Hospital. It's great.
You know what I'd like on FM25? I'd like to go get measured for me cup final suit. That's what I'd like to do.
I mean, maybe
FA Cup
that's it,
final
right?
Song creator.
But you joke. But could you imagine? Let's imagine it's this new text message based system, right? And you get, you got a cup final coming up, and you get a text message through. And let's say you've got a personal assistant, because all football managers have personal assistants. I don't know why we don't in Football Manager the game. So your PA messages you, and he or she says, "Hey, Tony, just to let you know, the cup final's coming up. I booked in your suit measurement meeting for this week. As a side note, do you want to go sort out this other thing?" Right? So you don't actually have to do anything with it there. But it's just a little flavour text before it asks you about the other thing.
Next thing you get the manager from your personal assistant, she's kicking off at your door because you didn't turn up to your meeting and all of it.
Yeah,
I don't think you have to do anything about it. It's just a text message, and it's
You
like
start
part
the
of
game
a
like you do your manager
conversation.
profile. Your waist size, your
Yeah,
shoe
exactly.
size.
Yeah. Tony, your star striker's done his ACL in, but just let you know, we need to work out where those trousers are going to fit. So just
Cup finals in 2 weeks. Holy chop chop.
yeah, I've got Debenhams on the phone. Which
I think they could, or there could be like, just before you go in the final, you get a message from your, maybe you just say you got a wife or husband. Hey, good luck today, Tony. It's Tony's wife. I know her name, but I don't want to say it on.
I hope so.
Good luck today, dear. I don't know if the pod knows. If I just say her name, no one's gonna know, are they?
Mrs. G.
I love the way that this started out going, I wonder what save challenge we could do for FM. And all of a sudden it's got Saigo and Mrs. J going, good luck with the Champions League final, Tony.
Mrs. J, yeah, of course, Mrs. J. Yeah, right? Like, or like you finish up and you get a board, you know, like after the final, it's like, hey, Tony, chairman here, we're opening a bottle of champagne. Do you want to join us?
Yeah. Or you know what? Go on further. If you lose the Champions League, have Mrs. J text me going, you're a disgrace.
You're sleeping on the sofa.
Home tonight.
Sleeping with the dogs out the back.
So yeah, for my thing, like maybe obviously for my thing, it would require like something at the start of the game, like when you're setting up the game. Like, just imagine Football Manager giving you the option to have an endpoint, and then obviously you're putting your endpoint, winning the Champions League final, and then obviously you're not going to pick Liverpool. You're going to go that down to the bottom, and then obviously that's the checkpoint, and then just something, I don't know, man.
Well, how about this? So instead of, it could ask you at the start of the game, it could be part of a press conference, right? And it asks you what your personal goals are in your career.
Ooh.
And you say, oh, I would love to win the Champions League. And then they go, who do you want to win the Champions League with? And you say, oh, I want to win the Champions League with Cobham Town. Or they go, oh, I want to win the Champions League with Barcelona, right? It's my favourite team. And it like does it that way. And it like, and then the game remembers that. And then when you get near the end, it's hey, do you remember back this day? And you said you wanted to win the Champions League with Barcelona. Well, you're a Real Madrid manager now. How do you feel about that? You know, you're in the Champions League final against Barcelona. Do you feel guilty about your answer, or like it does things like that?
Not even being funny. They don't even wish you happy birthday on your on the game. Like you quite literally put your date of birth in. It's like it doesn't take too much. It doesn't tell me happy birthday.
If you win or lose on your birthday, you get a message.
Are you, at this point, you just want a cake. Do you just want a cake?
If you win or lose,
you're blue to win the Champions League. You want a cake for your birthday. Aaron, is there something wrong? Like, do we need to?
These guys kick up about their playing time, but not one of them can come to the office and tell me happy birthday. That should be in the inbox. I'm sorry, man. It's so small, but those little touches, it could make a big difference. Just like, make me feel like a person, man. I've been playing this game for how many hours? I haven't wished me a happy birthday. Oh, but you can play April Fool pranks. Human.
Right, so journey person career then. That's one option. Build a nation. Build a nation. Do we have an endpoint for Build a Nation this year? Because some people like to have it as international management, which of course you can't do next year. So that takes out San Marino. That takes out Andorra. That takes out who else has got Build a Nation with? The Liechtenstein Challenge might be quite tricky. Well, we'll work about that in a second. But Build a Nation, you could still do a Build a Nation, really, if you just want to rise up through the coefficients. But you then can't win the World Cup with a small nation. Does that take something away from the save?
That's why second yellow card was so gutted about the international thing. I just remember people like, who plays international football anyway? And Matt's like, I do. Like, it's so important to how he plays the game. I'm not going to lie, with FM25, I think it's just going to be playing style. I think that's the only thing that would change for me is the way I play the game. And I feel that I'm already leaning towards that now. So obviously I don't want to keep mentioning the World Cup and stuff, but it was 2 weeks and my prep for the World Cup was like, hey, why don't I just start just countering what the AI are doing? Like, rather than just having a system and pray for the best, why not have that system, but also make tweaks so you're getting that extra 5%. And obviously at home, you lot can't see it, but at the World Cup, people saw that we got those extra results in the Champions League because we weren't just having our 4-2-3-1 and just pressing continue and praying for the best. Like, we knew that Real Madrid play counter-attack, so we just knew to remove counter-pressing. That sort of stuff like that is what I'm learning on FM24 now. That's what I've been doing towards this end cycle, and I think that's what's, for me, is going to be into FM25. And hopefully with Football Manager and the screens and stuff, it's going to be a bit more accessible, because I think it's silly that you're trying to prepare for a game on Football Manager and to find out how the AI playing, you've got to press clicky just before the game. Like, there's so many buttons. So like, I'm going to the manager. Luckily, I've got one of those mouses where I've got the forward and backwards thing. So it's just like, I'll go forward and backwards. But it's always like constantly a different page. And it's like, when I'm trying to tweak my tactic, judge according to the opposition, very difficult. So hopefully like pre-match in Football Manager, it just gives you what the opposition like to play while you're doing your so basically your tactics on the left, you've got, I don't know, your player selection in the middle, and then just on the right hand side or something, it just tells you what the opposition are doing, because man, it's just too clicky at the moment. But that's how I've been playing the game, and it's time consuming. And one reason why I haven't made a video about it is because I know, like, you're telling people you have to then go back, then go forward, then go back again, and then like it's very difficult to explain that and to tell people to do that.
So I love that. I love that, and you're right. It's another thing. Like all that information is there for you. That you just need to find it. The argument I would have, and Si, I don't know what you think about this. The counter argument I would have to that, if it was displayed as you've just said there, Aaron, is again it plays into the crowd that go, the game's too easy because the information's right there for you. So is the argument that you have to go and find that information worthwhile, or as Aaron says, is it easy just going, that's how the opposition plays, deal with it and react?
I like it. The game being too easy is an interesting one, because I don't think it is that easy now. I think it used to be easier, and I feel like now, I don't know how other people feel, but I certainly feel like I'm worse. Like with the amount of experience I have playing this
game, the Champions League in many years.
Yeah, right. With the number of years I've been playing the game, whereas like I think back to older games, I used to just go unbeaten. Like this is rolling now. Yeah. And like, so, okay, some years I had worse luck, some years I had better luck. But it's like generally I would find a rhythm in a game, and I'd be like, this is the tactic to run during this game. This is the game doesn't adapt to me. These are the wonders that I'm going to go by. Like, it would just generally reach a point where I'd sort my finances at the club out. They'd build a new stadium, which would put me under for a few years, and then once that's all sorted, eventually we're raking it in, and it's like, at some point it did become easy. I don't know if the game is still easy. I think there'll be people in the comments now going, oh, the game's so easy, I won the Premier League with Arsenal 5 years in a row. I'm like, yeah, but you've done it with Arsenal. Like, come on. I mean, I guess that like it's a little bit easier than real life, but if it was as painful as real life, no one would want to play it, right? Like, so it does have to be that little bit easier. It also has to be that little bit more accessible than real life. So there's a balance, and I understand like the hardcore idea of wanting the game to be difficult and wanting it to have a higher skill curve because it makes you feel smarter or whatever. But the reality is, you shouldn't need to be as good as Arsene Wenger or I don't know, even Sean Dyche or Big Sam or whoever, right? We probably look down on some of these managers when really their knowledge of the game far exceeds what we will ever understand about the game. The idea that like we would need that level of knowledge just to play a video game is actually ridiculous and not very accessible for the game itself. So I think making the game more accessible and presenting that information, and maybe you have your assistant make suggestions. So in Aaron's example, he might say, okay, they like to play a wide system. We could move players out wide to counter this, but it will leave us more exposed through the middle. All right, he just gives a little tip, and I don't think that necessarily makes it easier, because it gives you options, right? It makes you think.
It's not telling you just a way to win. Like, for me, it's not like we win every game doing that sort of thing. But then my argument is you want Football Manager to simulate real life, right? Like, you don't think Arteta and Pep Guardiola have all these analysts that are literally dropping all this information on their like, there's crazy graphs and stuff that these analysts with their in-house tools do in real life. So all of this information is accessible to a real-life manager, and they go into games with this information. Furthermore, when the game's being played, they're gathering even more information, and that's where you see like people's like Arteta's dark arts and like we saw. So one very noticeable thing Arteta did during the game, very dirty, but he got David. So he sent Jorginho down the line because Jorginho was warming up on the sideline. So he just got Jorginho to run up to the goalkeeper. Told the goalkeeper, next time just fake an injury, go down. David Raya goes down. Then all the Arsenal players start running to Arteta, and he's literally giving a team talk while David Raya's got a fake injury. It's because he's gathered new information, and now he's getting his team to quickly adjust to that tactic, and he's changing, tweaking. So my thing was that, for an example, next game in Football Manager, I've actually got Arsenal, funny enough, but their manager is Zinedine Zidane, and he likes to... He might not be a great, but for an example, tends to holds a defensive line, I'm possibly looking to get my striker. If I'm using a complete forward, I might just then change it to an advanced forward, someone that's constantly trying to look to break the high line. But if like Jurgen Klopp, now I'm comfortable playing Jurgen Klopp, because before I was just trying to go head for head. Like, I'll try and gegenpress him, but now I'm like, oh wait, in his team thing it says he like sees counter attack. I'll just go into my team, just remove counter press off, and I might take off obviously defensive things as well. Like if you're using step up, I might just remove that as well, and that's it. Another tip as well. Teams that use intense pressing, I like to slow my passing down a little bit so we could just control the game. Because if we're just trying to play those quick passes and the opposition are pressing, they're just going to win the ball and go on their attack. If we can slow the pace down a little bit, then we're more likely to actually beat their high intense pressing. And for me personally, I feel there's an improvement in my results, but you also get a reward, right? Like, won that game because I've removed that instruction. And you see, I remember, Tony, we had an episode where we were playing a game and we changed a player to complete wing back, and then we put the target forward.
Dortmund, wasn't it?
And then we saw the
exact seconds.
Yeah, we literally saw the left winger bombing forward.
Goals.
Whip it into the target forward, and that sort of thing. Like when that happened, you just feel like you've done that. But I just feel like in the game you've got analysts, and it's a way for that the analyst in the game to actually do something and make him worthwhile. Like, I'm paying these guys, I'm going to staff search to pick up these guys. I need to feel like I'm doing it for a reason, and that's where their input can really help.
Again, I think it's like there are those extra marginal gains, which like you're explaining perfectly there, and you're right.
Yeah.
You should be able to go to an opposition manager, see how they play, adjust those little tweaks, and that'll give you an extra little advantage because you've done an extra bit of homework that I haven't done, for example. So your win percentage is going to, your possibility win possibility is going to be higher than mine because you've done an extra bit of work on the opposition. And I think what we ultimately come down to is all that info is available. It's not presented in a palatable manner for the casual player. Like I put a load of stuff in the data hub in my game, and I don't really understand most of it. Like I can look at it and I can be like, right, okay, I get some of it, and some of it is fairly straightforward, and some of it I look and go, I don't really know how to interpret that. But if there's a way of like explaining it better, or even presenting it a bit clearer, then I might be able to interpret it differently, and then all of a sudden I've now got an advantage because I'm like, oh, that's doing what I wanted it to do. Like I'm losing the ball, and I've worked out where I'm losing it, why I'm losing it. You say there about like you're playing teams who press, just a little bit more of like, oh, of course, slow the game down, and then you're not forcing as many, you're not playing into as many problems. And I think that's the thing. Maybe sometimes, Si, we overthink it. I know we say that, we're saying that the game's not too easy because maybe we play it in a slightly different way. Again, we're putting it out as content, so we're telling stories at the same time. But maybe we do just overthink it slightly, or don't think about it enough because we're too busy being distracted and we're doing stuff on stream.
I've definitely been guilty of overthinking, especially with things like draft mode. When you're against other humans.
Again, you don't have to worry about that next year. Then
just bring up all the things we know. Do we have to worry about tactics next year?
Actually, going to be good next year.
We just select to drop
away
down.
kits aren't in next year either. They've got rid of them.
Footballers in next year. No, we don't have to worry about them. I've definitely been guilty of being like, if I change this role, how does it interact with this role, and will they pivot and rotate? And like, actually, I mean, these are fairly simple terms, but like, I'm sort of trying to think how I imagine this like mechanical movement of players that is happening in my brain. When I'm like, the game is they're probably just gonna run and then pass the most logical pass and do the most logical thing, and like rather than me trying to. Well, yeah, but I think that's the thing. Trying to anticipate the illogical things, I think, is where I try to overthink it. So I remember back in draft mode, and I was running strikeless a lot a few years ago, and I was sort of thinking about strikeless in two ways. One was like, okay, it's just strikers, but the strikers start that little bit deeper, And the other was if you have inverted wingers and strikers, and then do they overlap, and do the strikers go out wide? And then apparently they never did, because this year they did dynamic movements where players move in reaction to other players. Apparently that never happened before. I'm sure it did, but people seem to think
this one is more defined.
I mean, maybe it's better. Maybe it's more logical, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more logical. Yeah. Ish.
And
I felt like individual players were doing proper things.
Yeah. So it was like thinking about, particularly when you've got players moving into the same position, what illogical conclusion would the game come to? I think this is probably why you don't see many strikerless tactics this year, because they do more logical things. But like, what illogical conclusion is it going to send those players in which directions? And what used to happen is it used to confuse defenders, but only in certain ways, and only certain defenders would be like, well, how do you, and then when you face that, how do you counter that? How do you stop your defense from getting confused by this overlapping, underlapping, line check switching, shadow strikers, inverted wingers, and inverted fullbacks, and all that stuff, box to box midfielders? And it's like, is there a way to account for that? And that's sort of where I was overthinking it. I was like, probably not. Like, it's just the game choosing some randomizer.
That's where
every 10 minutes.
That's where the broken jigsaw asymmetric systems were working really well as well. When a couple of years ago, and it was just literally just put players in the position where the ball's going to go, and have no actual logic as to why it's there, but that it's essentially like building a chessboard at that point. Going, you put a player there, you put a player there, you put a player there, and you go, this looks like an abomination. Yeah, I've won 7-0.
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Why? No. I don't know why, but it just does. Like,
it makes me laugh as well, and I'm definitely guilty of it, is when you so this is where I think people don't think enough about it as well, especially when I'm watching people that they'll win 6-0 at home one game, and then they'll be like, now they don't have to do any thinking. They think their tactic is good. They won 6-0, and the next game is away, but 6-0 is a big margin. Like, you should be able to, and that's where people go wrong. Like, could you imagine in real life, right? You're the opposition, the team that you're playing is just won 6-0. What do you think you're going to do? You're not just going to be like, I'm just going to play normal way. You'll be like, no, wait, what did they do to win 6-0, and how can we stop that? Like, I'm not saying Football Manager does that exactly, but that's what I've seen, that people will win 6-0 and then they don't think to actually change anything, because they don't have to change anything for the next game. They don't care who they're playing, and then they're playing Aston Villa, and then their 4-2-4 just ruins you because you ain't thought about it, and you're just there screaming, but I just won 6-0 last game. That is me. If you've been into my streams, that is 100% me. I just beating United. And now you can't beat Brentford because the two teams play completely different. You possibly had the system that can counter-attack United, but now Brentford are the ones counter-attacking you. It's a different ball game, and that didn't change a single thing. I probably made my team worse.
I'm guilty of a few things like that. Like, sometimes I just sort of go, that's the system, that's how we're playing. Like, whereas I know that there should be matches where I need to change my deep line playmaker to a DM, for example, just be a little bit more defensive. Like, I've got my wing back on attack, maybe be wing back on support. Like, those little things, like, or vice versa. I've normally got the support. Hey, push him higher, get up, get at them. Like, and I don't do that enough.
And maybe people don't want to change things because they feel that then they're moving away from the tactical style, but that is not always necessarily the case, right? So even if we're doing gegenpressing, and I'm telling you, remove counter press, you don't lose gegenpressing. Like, you can still watch the game, you're still going to notice your players pressing the ball, but it's just not that tactical instruction. Or I'll say your players are way more wary of all just doing the same action. So just imagine you're telling your team, no matter what, counter press, and then telling your team in another game, counter press when the opportunity is there. If not, maybe just hold off a little bit. Like, you're still want that game plan, but you're just being smart enough, and you want that result. So you're just telling your team, if the option's not on, just don't attempt it, sort of thing. But I think, again, people just don't want to change because they feel that they're moving away from something that was working. Possibly, yeah. Even with the high tempo and stuff, right? Like, if I go from slightly higher to the middle, so it's no longer high, it's just a normal, my team can still be trying these risky passes through the player roles. Like, I'm not completely losing that. I'm just not overkilling it, basically. I mean, it's still there, but we might just catch them out at moments rather than just completely hammering it all the time, because then they can actually start to counter-attack us.
I need to think. Like, I'm guilty. I've just run the same tactic. As soon as I've got one that's going,
no, but I used to play like, it's only recently I've just thought, let me just. I say recently, I've always known of it, obviously, but it's just like, why do I keep moving away from it? Like, there's no excuse for me to keep moving away. For me, it's that content creating bit, right? Like, when I'm in front of Twitch and stuff, like, I'm just pressing spacebar just to get to the next game. But when I'm at home and stuff, like, obviously you got the time just to sit there a little bit and just look at the other manager, what he's doing. Like, one of the great things that I do. One of the great things I do. Wow, that sounds so cocky.
One of the great things that I do. One of the things that I'm known for in this world.
One of the things that I do, which I think is great, it's go to a manager, so Xavi Alonso for an example, and it tells me tactical style, vertical tiki-taka, player mentality, attacking, and then he plays the 3-4-2-1. Then what I will do is just go into my tactics, go to an empty tactics slot, and just literally recreate that. And then what you can have is his team instructions in front of you. Then again, you can see where. That's how I know for straight away that wing play uses counter attacking, because I've done this many a times. But that's like how to beat Unai Emery is a bloody headache on this game. But one way I did it is literally just like, you know what? Let me just try and recreate what I think he's gonna do, and then I can see it better. Then I can see the image better, and okay, like this might be what's causing me issues. Turns out, slow down the tempo and attack through the middle was what Unai Emery just does not like.
I must admit, I believe it or not, I'm guilty of ruining a tactic when it wins. Because the weird thing, because we're in Greece this year, I had the Brazilian box and it was working beautifully, and I won the league with Larissa, and I was looking really, really good with it. But I almost felt like, this is going to start becoming just spacebar manager, because I know this is working really nicely.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I'm going to rip the tactic up and go 4-3-3 and just redesign the squad at that point. Like, because my thinking was, some managers do that in real life. They change their system completely for the following season, and they go, oh, that's not what we expected from you. Like, you've changed it a lot. So I do try to get into that thing going, right, try not to have the same tactic for too long, and try something else. And it doesn't always work, and maybe that's part and parcel of what I like with playing FM, is that some things work, some things don't. I do embrace the sack. That's something that I'm very much keen on. So don't treat it as the end of your save. Just go, well, it's the end of that club. Let's move on. Go somewhere else. I suppose if we do think back to what we do for next year, then, because we're not really any further forward, are we, for ideas for FM25? I don't know about you lot, but I'm not. I'm still.
I've got one for you.
Go on then.
Yeah, well, we haven't discussed it, so we said Premier League. Women's football's in the game, gents.
Yeah, for me, I said Arsenal women's. Yeah, Arsenal women's. For me.
Are we going to? Well, you're going to do Arsenal women.
Yeah, that's how I think. I'm going to start there, but I don't know how the game works and how you can manage both. Like, do you have the option to join the men's club later?
Yeah, I think you do. I think they've
so,
confirmed that, right?
That's how
you just have that option just to take control. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Oh no, I think you'd have to apply for the job.
No, so yes.
Like, you'd have to, like, you couldn't just be like women's manager and go, right, I'm off to manage the men's team.
Hello.
I'll be back on Wednesday.
You just turn up one morning. Like, I'm your manager now.
From how I understand that they've explained it, is you can manage the women's team. Then when you've won everything you wanted to win in the women's team, you can then apply for the job into the men's universe as well, and then cross the through the clubs that way. So that could be quite cool. I do like the idea of women's football in there, and I'm excited to work out what other leagues of women's football are available, because I think we can sort of like presume WSL is going to be in. That would make sense, I suppose. Really, is there going to be things like America? Is it going to be Spain? Is it going to be France? Is it going to be Scandinavia? Like, how many women's teams are going to be in?
Yeah.
Like, because not every English team has a women's team, so there might be certain teams that don't have. How far down the pyramid does it go? Loads of questions, of course, we don't know the answers to, and we will try and get some more answers as we get a bit closer. We're already talking to people to come on and explain it as we get closer, so that's going to be really, really good conversation to have. And in fact, we've also been trying to get some female football creators as well, who are really big on women's football, to come and say, these are the teams to look out for, these are the players to look out for, this is why you need to consider managing women's football. So again, we've got those episodes coming up, because we are excited about seeing this as a completely brand new challenge and a new way to play FM. So if that's the sort of thing you're into, do keep your eyes peeled. We're going to have loads of stuff coming very, very soon.
Well, if you are one of those creators, please get in touch.
Oh,
with us. I mean, you don't have to be a creator. If you're knowledgeable about women's football, we are looking for someone willing to come on and teach us. Essentially, you know, we are very open minded about it. We're not you know, cavemen.
I mean, yeah, my knowledge. It's not bad, but I think it doesn't go much further than Arsenal, to be honest.
The FM Show pod at gmail.com. If you're a female football fan genius, I've ruined it now, haven't I? Yeah, if you're fully up to date on women's football, let us know. Drop us an email.
Or even if you want to recommend someone as well, if you want to put someone forward as well, then let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot just from when they've added it into... I tell you what, they added it into FIFA EAFC a few years ago. And when they added it to Ultimate Team last year, I think that did wonders for the... I think that's probably... I would... that, alongside the... You know, obviously the World Cup in England was pretty big. But I think lasting effect, and this is... I think the idea that women's football is in FIFA Ultimate Team or EA Ultimate Team, as much as we hate Ultimate Team, like what it represents in some regards, is actually going to be really big, because a lot of people are now like, because it was always like Ronaldo or Messi, and part of the allure of Ronaldo or Messi was always they were the top cards in FIFA, right, in Ultimate Team, and like they're always the best player you can get every year. And now it's going to be like, well, there's also, you know, quick, agile female players who are given equivalent ratings, and like people go after them. I pulled out last year, what's her name, Graham Hansen, who's at Barcelona. I had no idea who she was, and I was like, I've got like a women's Barcelona player, which is probably a bit reductive of me. And everyone was like, oh my, like, it was like I can't remember what the style of card. It was like a really high card. It was like worth 2 million coins, which is a lot in coins. And I was like, people were like, you pulled what? And I was like, it was like the second best card in the game at the time, and I was like, is it? Like, because I didn't know who she was. Whereas, like, you know, if I'd have pulled that and it was Ronaldo or Messi, I'd have been like, oh, you know, yes. I felt a bit guilty about it. But, you know, then I know about who Caroline Graham Hansen is. You know, I know who, you know, Georgia Stanwaiter, like all these players, like who they are and how good they are at football and whatever. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more. I must admit, I know bits, but I don't know anywhere near as much as I probably should. And obviously, I'm desperate to learn more. I do think, and it has been mentioned before, I do think that there is a slight own goal with not having international football in this year and having the women's league in this year, because as we know, international football is so important to women's football that then it's almost like you give with one hand and you take away with the other. You don't get the full experience, which it really is a shame, to be honest. And yeah, I think that would be something that I think some people might look at that and go like,
it might put them off a little bit,
yeah. Like
there's a lot of people's introduction to it, innit? It's a lot of people's introductions. I think for me, it's because I've always been, I don't want to say I've always been going. My auntie, she's a massive Arsenal fan, season ticket. She made sure she took us to Arsenal women's games. So again, like we've had this conversation before, like then that's why football for me became like, it's just football. Like women's football is just football. I think FIFA do a good job in that. So I play pro clubs a lot, and people make their avatar and they make a lot of lady avatars and stuff like that. And it's just because it's just football. Like, a lot of people don't really see it. They don't care. It's just football. The player's good anyway. So I think that's the thing. Like football manager's got to do well, in my opinion, in just putting it across that football is just football. Like it's not different. It's not separate. It's just football. It's just a part of the game. And
I've been saying on stream as well, trying to like explain it, going like it's the same as, you know, if you load up the UFC game, right? You expect the women's division to be in. You might now, if you don't want to play it, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But you'd be confused if it wasn't there, because some of the women in the UFC are the biggest stars. Like, if they're not in the game, you'd be like, well, why are they not in the game? Like, you know. And it's the same with women's football. Some of these footballers in the women's league game are mega stars, like in the women's game. You know, the Lionesses was a huge thing, like, you know, and it inspired a generation. So they need to be in the game. And if you don't want to play it, fine. You know, that's entirely up to you. You don't have to preach on about it. That's completely fine. Mm-hmm. But if it's not there, then I think that would be the disservice for it not to be there. Like it has to be there because it's there in the real football, like in the real world of football. That's how it is. You know what I mean? So,
and even today we saw a thing, right? Crystal Palace doing their team photo, and their team photo was the men and women's together. Yeah. And again, it's just one of those things like Crystal Palace is just Crystal Palace.
Well, even the kit launchers are the same as well now, isn't it? You
It's
get
kit
the male
launchers
players
now,
and the
yeah,
female
yeah,
players
yeah.
both modelling the kits when they come out. So, yeah.
I'm on Football Manager. I'm excited, but I'm also a little bit.
Oh, here's the one then. How about managing at Juventus because they had the first ever couples transfer?
Oh my God! Imagine managing Lehman and Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, you could.
Imagine Douglas Luiz got sent off last week, so you're not starting today. Yeah, I'll be doing petty things like that. Oh man, I just got a feeling there should be greater stories told. I just hope that today, people gather that we play the game differently, and I just wish that they got this thing with personalities and stuff and just enhance that. So, for an example, you say that you like to change your tactics and you should be known as the Tinkerman or whatever like that. And then I should know to have RDF ball and stuff like that. And you're just known through that throughout your whole career. So, like, in your game, when you got sat, go to your next club, and your next club are looking for someone like yourself rather than just everyone just throwing in their CVs as it is and they just pick, he's got the highest rep. Like, why not just the board picking? I'm picking him because he's more in line than what we're trying to achieve. And they can see that through your personality. And again, it's one thing that we will have an episode in it possibly next week, but it's one thing that Football Manager on mobile, it has it. Not Football Manager mobile, Football Manager Touch on the mobile that I play on. I think it's on the iPad as well, but it has that sort of stuff where you set you don't set no attributes, you just set up personality. You just got these boxes where it's like you want to be this perfectionist, you want to be this and you want to be that. There's no, your attacking's on 18 and your level discipline and stuff like that. There's none of that. It's just boxes and you just select your personality and then the players either choose to buy into that or they don't. And then you've got the whole season to get players to buy in. And then you've also got the whole season for players to get further away from buying in, copping out. So yeah, hopefully
I like the sound. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it just it really does. Like if it wasn't on the mobile, like I know I was saying like, I'm gonna get stuck into it. I think it's just because it's on the mobile. Like it's really hard to be like this is actual Football Manager, but it is actually Football Manager. It's just hard to get your brain wrapped around it. But like there's so many things in Football Manager mobile that we'll talk about next week. That's just in there, and it's just like, why is this not in the main game? Like, it's just so silly that it's not in the main game. It's like a main game feature.
Right. Okay. So is that a little lead in for next week then, Si? Is it? We have to talk FM console. We haven't talked.
Yeah,
about
FM console
yet,
and touch. I think you're going to have to take the plunge for a week, Tony, and give it a go so we can talk about it.
Get the Apple Arcade out.
Okay.
Get your
All right. Yeah. I got my Apple Arcades out. Okay, cool. Right, well, I'll tell you what, that's next week then, right? Next week is going to be FM console, FM touch. We're conscious we haven't covered it, so if that's your bag and your game, come and have a watch of that. Come and learn, like me.
I was going to say,
learn.
If it's not your bag, then come and learn.
Yeah, definitely come and have a look and see what it looks like, how it plays, what it does. We're no further forward to deciding a save for FM25 yet. No further forward. If you've got any suggestions for us, leave a comment in the section below. Let us know what you think your save is going to be for FM25, whether it's a challenge, whether it's a specific club, whether it's... leave and let us know about something that you wish you could do but now can't. You know, maybe you wanted to do an international save and you can't do it anymore now. Do that. The engagement in the videos has been fantastic over the last few weeks. So really appreciate everyone who's joining in and commenting and liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. Aaron, if people want to give us more love, where can they give us more love?
They can give us more love at patreon.com/the FM Show Pod. That is patreon.com/the FM Show Pod, where you can support us from as little as £3. We've got some bonus episodes there. You gotta come over. If I tell you everything that's there, it's just spoiling it and they're not gonna come over. So just come over. You're gonna like what you see. I promise ya.
Absolutely. extra stuff. So once the cameras lock off, we go and we start talking about some more things. There's some fantastic things on there. Loads and loads of content. It just keeps, every single week there's another episode on there, so it's all fantastic. So come and hang out there. Si, if you want to give us some love online, where can you find us?
The FM Show at the FM Show Pod on
X gon' give it to ya.
Come on, you got to join it now, Tony. Formerly Twitter.
Do you think we're doing the hammers?
We're like a superhero troupe now.
Irons.
Yeah, on Twitter or the FM Show Pod at gmail.com.
That's the one.
Yes,
there we go. So you can send us an email or join us in the Discord. The Discord's very active. You know, I know sometimes people join Discords and they're dead. No, people love chatting and talking about new information about the new game and all sorts of things in the Discord. So come join us there.
Tell you where else you can join us live in Birmingham or Nottingham. Come and talk to us in our actual faces. We're doing some live shows. So Sunday the 27th of October.
Oh wait, you're the guy that said no attributes.
X go and give it him. Sunday the 27th of October in Birmingham at the I've forgotten the name of the venue. The link is in the description. The Actress and the Bishop. Actress and the Bishop in Birmingham. We're going to be there. That's a 5 o'clock start. Finish at 8 o'clock. It's going to be brilliant. And then we've also got the 4th of November, which is a Monday night in Nottingham at the Canal House, which is a bit of a... It's almost like a yearly thing now.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's our home stadium.
4 years. Yeah, home game in Nottingham. So we're going to turn up and have a great time, and then we're off to drink all the hooch in Nottingham afterwards. So yeah, come and get your tickets for that. I suppose ultimately that's the end of the show, really. Should we plug ourselves, Si?
Yep, Si Maggio on all platforms. Not all of them. Most platforms.
The usual platforms.
Yeah. There's some I refuse to go on. So yeah, you can find me on those. You know, Football Manager. I'm doing a bit of EAFC at the minute, which we might talk about in a second.
Yeah.
You know, I know we're the Football Manager, but it has a football management mode. So
yes.
Well, you know, that might be the little Patreon. But yeah, you can catch me on Twitch, YouTube. Also doing my football shirt stuff over on YouTube. It's a separate channel, but you search me, you'll find it.
And our football shirt stuff at the Football Shirt Social. So
indeed, yes. I mean, we've done an episode on... What did we do this week's episode? The Dark Side of Football Shirts.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Dark Side of Football Shirts. It just come out at the weekend, so yeah, make sure you go check that out.
Yeah. Aaron, what about yourself? Where can we find all your stuff?
RDF Tactics on YouTube and on twitch.tv and also on X Gon' Give It To Ya. So that's where I'm mostly about. That's where I'm mostly hanging about.
Okay, and I'm Tony Jameson on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch is Tony Jameson FM, and I might be making a slight return to YouTube as well, so check that out as well, Tony Jameson FM also. I know. Let's see if I'm still doing it in 3 weeks' time, shall we?
I mean, a little behind the scenes, we did have a chat about Tony also starting a Pokemon channel. So it's like...
I'm going to try and do that secretly so no one knew.
Sorry, cut it, edit, cut. There's the end of the episode. Tony might be starting another project because Tony doesn't have enough projects. You didn't hear the project I just said that Tony may or may not be doing in secret.
Project X.
Project X.
Project. What do you say?
Any reason to pull of things.
Right. I think it's time we should go. Right.
Oh,
see you all on Patreon. If not, we'll see you next week. Take care of yourself, everyone. Bye now.